I'm Ashley Feliciano, and welcome to How to Become an Emotion Tamer. So today we're going to talk about emotional intelligence and why it is so important for us to work on our emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence is for parents as well as it is for children. And emotional intelligence was the term was coined by Daniel Goleman, who gathered a bunch of research on different emotions and how those emotions affected people, and how handling your emotions, how people who were in real good control of their emotions versus people who had no idea about their emotions, how that affected them. And so he gathered all this research and he wrote a book called Emotional Intelligence and Why It May Matter More Than IQ. And in this book, he talks about what emotions do and how there's the biological part of our emotions. So when we feel scared, how our body reacts a certain way, or when we feel sad, how we have literal physiological effects of each emotion. But then he also talked about the importance of knowing what those emotions do so that we can control them. So that when we feel angry, we don't have to yell and scream. We can be like, oh, we start recognizing that we're getting angry, and we can start calming ourselves down before we blow up and explode and do something we don't want to do. And so he makes this point that as he's done research and stuff, he learned that the people who seem to be the most successful, like in the biggest businesses and stuff, were people who had emotional intelligence. They knew how to handle their emotions in different aspects of their life, and it ended up coming to their advantage. And so it was more important, and they were more successful than the people with the highest IQs. And so he makes the point that it is just as important to be emotionally intelligent as it is to be just intelligent about life. And so we are going to kind of learn a little bit about that today. So some of the reasons why this is important is we right now are seeing a rising of children being diagnosed with depression and anxiety, as well as we're seeing an increase in school shootings. We're seeing that suicide is becoming one of the leading killers of our children. And if we can teach them how to handle their emotions, how to come to us with their emotions when they don't know how to handle it, so that we become like a safe spot, we are going to be protecting our children and helping them to prepare them to be the most successful people they can be. So our emotions, each emotion sends a different trigger to our brain. So the emotion is felt in our brain, and it sends a trigger throughout our body for different things. So yesterday, I was preparing for this, and I just eaten lunch about an hour before. It was a nice big lunch, and all I wanted was a cinnamon roll. I just wanted this big cinnamon roll. And I knew I had to work on this project, but all I wanted was the cinnamon roll, and I could not stop thinking about it. And so I almost was to the point where I was like going to go drive to a bakery and get me a giant cinnamon roll. And then I stopped and I thought, Ashley, you're not hungry. So why are you going to go get you a cinnamon roll? And so I thought about it. I'm like, what is causing me to want the cinnamon roll so much? And I realized I'm really anxious. And so I stopped and thought, why am I anxious? And I was anxious about this project, because this is something I've never done before. And so I thought, okay, so I'm anxious. So what's going to help me with my anxiety? And I realized what was going to help me is just to get going, start doing it, start acting on it, and I would feel so much better. So I sat down, worked on it, found all the resources I needed, got it all gathered together, felt like I had a good plan, and all of a sudden, I didn't want that cinnamon roll anymore. So each of our emotions leads to a different trigger in our brain, right? So these emotions trigger responses that we feel, and then we act on them. But unfortunately, what can happen is our emotions can start to control us instead of us controlling our emotions. So just like in the case of the cinnamon roll, my anxiety was controlling me to the point where I was going to go buy a cinnamon roll, a big giant cinnamon roll, which would have had way more calories than my body needed because I just had lunch. So I would have ended up eating it. It might have been delicious, but I would have felt so sick afterwards because it was way more food than I needed because I just ate. And then I'd still be anxious. So the point of becoming emotionally intelligent is to be able to stop us in those moments where those triggers are going off, so that anxiety is like, oh, you need to eat something. because you need to prepare for whatever is making you scared. Instead, I can be like, wait, why am I feeling like I need to eat something when I just ate? Oh, I'm anxious. And so then I can take that and be like, what can I do to stop that anxiety, and start working backwards. The same thing can happen if we're feeling angry. So for me, when I feel angry, there's the fight, flight, or freeze, right? So whenever you're startled or scared, your body has 3 possible responses. And what's happening is most people, like, there's those people who are fighters, there's people who are flighters, and those people who are freezers. So for me, when somebody's yelling at me and so I'm starting to get scared, I just freeze. I can't say anything, I can't do anything, and my body just shuts down. Well, that's not necessarily the safest thing for me, because what if I was in a dangerous spot? I need to learn, like, oh, I'm scared, I'm freezing, and assess the situation. So when you're scared, do you fight, flight, or freeze? Think about that. So, as a society, as an American society, we don't really talk about our emotions openly as much. And I mean, we're doing a little bit better than the generation before us, but we still have a huge room to improve. If somebody comes up to you on the street, and maybe it's a friend, so they genuinely care about you, they want to know, and they say, how are you doing? And you say, I'm fine. Do you really mean you're fine? Or are you just saying that because you don't want to bother them with your problems, or just because you're not in tune with your feelings? So you're like, fine. So there's more than just the 4 or 5 general emotions that we talk about all the time. Okay, so most people, they can say I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm angry, that really made me mad. Or, maybe they're scared. But that's usually we only talk about a couple emotions, but there's so many more emotions. And as we become aware of those emotions, we can actually learn how to act on those emotions. So I want you to take a 1-minute break, pause this, grab you a piece of paper and a pen, and time yourself for 1 minute and see how many emotion words you can write down. Okay? So take the 1 minute. Okay. Did you really take the 1 minute and pause it? I hope you did, because I think you'll learn a lot from this. So I did it, and I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 words in 1 minute that are emotion type words. Okay? So those are the emotions I could think off the top of my head. So I had like happy, scared, anxious, nervous, frustrated, shy, lonely, tired, crazy, energetic, irritable, and impatient. Those are the emotions I could think of. But there's so many emotions, and it's important for us to know these emotions. So Dan Siegel, who is he's a big researcher in child development, and he's written several books about how to help your children, and he does a lot with the brain and how your child's brain works, and so how you as a parent can connect with that child. So he coined a phrase called name it to tame it. So what his theory is if you can name the emotion you're feeling, it helps tame the emotion. So I will link a video down below that kind of explains this a little bit better, but I'm going to just give you a really brief explanation, okay? So when you have a feeling, like an emotion, our emotions are felt in the bottom part of our brain called the amygdala, and that's like what they call our ancient brain, our reptile brain, they call it a lot of times. So it's our amygdala is where we feel those emotions, right? And so say we're really, really angry, okay? We're really, really angry, so we're about to punch something because we are in that fight mode. And so we're going to punch something. But if we can stop and send that angry emotion up to our prefrontal lobe, which is up here where we have our thinking, and we can say, hey, I'm angry, then that sends out messages to your body and back to your amygdala, and it starts calming it down and helps you know, like, I know what's going on and I can control it. And so when you name your emotion, you can tame your emotion. So that is why it's so important for us to know different names of different emotions, because if we just said, I'm sad, but you're not really feeling sad about one thing, you're just melancholy. But knowing what you are helps you to be able to tame whatever emotion it is you're having. So once we know the emotion, we know how to act on it. So once again, we'll go back to my cinnamon roll analogy. Because I knew I was anxious, once I figured out that was what was actually wrong, I was able to think, okay, I'm anxious. What is causing me so much anxiety? Well, this was causing me so much anxiety. And so I knew, okay, if I work on this, then some of that anxiety is going to go away. And all of a sudden, not only had I named it to tame it, so I was already bringing that anxiety down, then I was able to act on it, but in an appropriate way. And so that anxiety started to go away to the point where when I finished, I felt so much better, and I didn't want a cinnamon roll anymore. While I still think they are delicious, I didn't feel like I needed it. I felt fine. So we as parents need to help our children learn to know what their emotions are. And one of the great ways we can do that is by naming their emotions and naming our emotions. So when we feel emotion, we say out to them like, man, I'm really feeling frustrated. I'm having a hard time with whatever. Or man, I feel so happy because blank. But by telling them that we feel these emotions, then they also can start recognizing their emotions in them. There's this really cool things that humans do, and it's called mirroring. So a child will see what a parent does, and they mirror them. So as parents start naming their emotions, the children are going to start doing it. So for the week, I want you to focus on the different emotions you are feeling and name them out loud. So even if you're like driving down the road and somebody cuts you off and you're like, you want to yell at that person, think, man, I'm really angry because he just cut me off and he could have sent me down into a ditch. Or be like, you know, I'm not actually angry, I'm scared. We almost died because that guy wasn't paying attention to us. And so as you start naming those emotions, you're going to start becoming more aware of all the different emotions you're feeling, as well as if you say them out loud, your children is going to start hearing that, and then it's going to help teach them a little bit about their own emotions. So one quick story before we go. So a couple weeks ago, I was trying to help my daughter get ready for bed. And most nights she can do it on her own. But this night she was just like not doing anything. And so I was like, I'm getting really upset right now. And my daughter says, why? Why are you getting upset? And I stopped and I thought, you know what? I'm not upset. I'm feeling impatient. And I said, you know what? I'm feeling impatient. I need you to get dressed in your pajamas so I can go upstairs and take care of your little brother who is crying. And so I said, do you want help? And she said, no, I want to do it on my own. And I said, okay. And so I gave her her pajamas to get ready, and I was able to go, and all of a sudden that negative emotion was gone. And I realized, because I recognized what the true emotion was, I wasn't upset, I was impatient. I just wanted to get this over with so I could get to the next thing that was going on. And that's okay. And by naming it out loud, I was able to take care of that emotion, and then I was able to know how to solve it. Well, for me, solving that emotion was simply giving the task to my daughter, because it was something she can do, and she wasn't letting me help her, and so I might as well just let her do it on her own in her timing while I helped her little brother who was crying. So, again, the assignment for this week is to focus on the different emotions you're having and name them as they come. And name them out loud and see how many emotions, you know, and see the ones that happen the most often for you. Maybe you think you're a really angry person, but maybe you're not. You just always say you're angry, but really it's you have a lot of impatience, or maybe you feel frustrated because your kids ignore you. I don't know, maybe that doesn't happen to you guys, it just happens to me. So if you liked this video or found it helpful, please like and share and subscribe for the next one. And comment down below how many emotions you got on your 1-minute emotion paper. And thank you for being a part of this. And please share this with others, and just, especially if you found this information helpful. Thank you. And I hope you guys have a great day.